I drink alone. Yeah, with nobody else. I drink alone. Yeah, with nobody else. Yeah, you know when I drink alone, I prefer to be by myself. Every morning just before breakfast, I don't want no coffee or tea. Just me and my good buddy Wiser. That's all I ever need, 'cause I drink alone. Yeah, with nobody else. Yeah, you know when I drink alone, I prefer to be by myself. The other day I lay sleeping, I woke from a terrible dream. I called up my friend Jack Daniels and his partner Jimmy Beam, and we drank alone. Yeah, nobody else. Yeah, you know when I drink alone, I prefer to be by myself. The other night I got invited to a party. I stayed home instead. Me and my pal Johnny Walker and his brothers Black and Red, and we drank alone. Yeah, well, nobody else. Yeah, you know when I drink alone, I don't want nobody else. I got me a pet in my penthouse. He don't bother me. He ain't no poodle, no pony. Just a little old wild turkey, and we drink alone. Yeah, with nobody else. Yeah, you know when I drink alone, I prefer to be by myself. Do it again. My whole family done give up on me. It don't make me feel too sad. Only one who hang out with me is my dear old granddad, and we drink alone. Yes, with nobody else. Yeah, you know when I drink alone, I don't want nobody else. Yeah, you know when I drink alone, I prefer to be by myself. Listen to those lyrics. Are you kidding me?
Oh, it's beautiful.
Whoever wrote that song should be in a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I'm Neil Young, Eat Out Your Heart.
I agree.
You never heard lyrics like that.
105.7 KOKZ, Iowa's classic hit. Some David Bowie changes just inside 3 o'clock. I'm Sean Fox, and a very special guest is in town, of course. He'll be playing at the Gallagher Blue Dorn Performing Arts Center tomorrow night, and I've got him here in studio with me, everybody, and also I got some people in the studio audience, I guess you could say, hanging out too. Everybody, George Thorogood, welcome, sir.
And Jim Suler.
And Jim Suler. So again, I've been really excited to meet and talk to you.
You're going to make it? You're going to get through this?
I'm going to take a breath
in between
here.
This?
You know, as I said before, if I start crying, Craig can jump in and take over. But one of the things I kind of wanted to talk to you about, because I've told you I'm a big music fan, I'm really excited to hear about some of these things. You've been telling some great stories already. What was it when you got started? When you picking up the guitar, was it the blues that grabbed you? Was it the early rock and roll? Was it both?
It was all of it. It was all of it. I got a guitar when I was a teenager, but I didn't play it much. I didn't really touch it at all. I kind of sang in bands, did a weak imitation of like the Rolling Stones and the Yardbirds and the Animals and all those things that were happening at the time. And I had a pretty good grip on performing. But I couldn't sing. I couldn't play an instrument. I couldn't write a song. So my parents said, "You're gonna need a little bit more. That's it. That's not enough. They're not gonna come knocking on your door because you look like one of the Rolling Stones. You gotta do something." Yeah. And they were right. And I'd been listening to blues a lot. I've been listening to John Lee Hooker a lot. People like John Lee Hooker. I was very into that. Bo Diddley. And I picked up a guitar one day, and I remember I'd fooled around with it. I know a couple chords. I could almost get through Gloria.
Almost?
Almost, yeah. And I started playing this John Lee Hooker type stuff, and some people in the room, like this room here, who were very good musicians, jumped up and said, "We were listening in the next room. We thought that was a record. That's you playing?" And I said, "Yeah." And one of them got mad at me. He said, "Gary Cogley, you know Gary." Yeah, he said, "Don't tell me you can't do it." He said, "I thought that was a John Lee Hooker record. I was just making it up. Didn't even have a foggy idea what I was doing."
Wow.
And he was just like, "No, that's it. And then he said, "Plus we snuck in and looked and saw you when you were playing. You had a look in your eye." Yeah. He said, "We didn't even know who you were. These are my friends." And look at him, he's saying, "Who is this guy all of a sudden?" Yeah. And what happened to me was, if you can dig this, at the same time, almost like the same week, check it out. I discovered, I didn't discover it. I was turned on or experienced Hank Williams music and Robert Johnson at the same time, within about a week and a half. Yeah. And I kept listening to Hank's stuff and then listening to Robert Johnson back and forth. I remember this is just after Jimi Hendrix passed on, and Led Zeppelin were as big as the Beatles, or they were on their way to becoming as big as the Beatles. Yeah. And I had heard the greatest music you're ever going to hear. You know, Abbey Road, Are You Experienced, and so on. Mm-hmm. So I'm listening to this Hank Williams record. I'm listening to Robert Johnson going by. I said, "I don't know which one's greater. I don't know who's better. This is the greatest music I've ever heard." And that's what started me. It was like those two artists. I kept banging away on one, banging away on the other. And eventually I thought, if we could get a Hank Williams song and put a slide guitar to it, like Robert Johnson, with a good beat, bingo. Yep. And I said, "And you better move fast before Linda Ronstadt does it." Because she'll make a much bigger hit out of it than I will.
Well, and that's the thing. What I was going to ask too is the fact that when you start there, now you were picking up the guitar, you were fingering it. At what point did you say? Was it Robert Johnson that you said, "Okay, this slide thing. What is this? I got to master this. I got to figure out what this is about." What was it that made it to say?
I'll tell you, I was in a band with someone where I was the lead singer, and one of the guitarists played slide. I was in a couple bands like at the same time where I just was the vocalist. Mm-hmm. And I taught the guy how to tune his guitar to open tuning and how to put the slide on his hand. And then the other guy said, "Hey, could you show me how to do that?" And I said, "Yeah, here's how it goes, And ding, 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 ding. And I said, "Put it on your finger and do this." So then after I saw all these people doing it, a couple other people said, "Well, why don't you just do it?" And I thought, I'm a lead singer.
Lead singer disease.
That's beneath me. Yeah. I thought, and they said, but you do it better than those guys. So I said, I don't have to pay them. If it's just me, So bells started going on in my head. It was a lot harder work, but I didn't have to deal with other personalities and things like that. Right. So I started working on kind of a weak imitation of John Hammond, but I got people's attention. Yeah. I got it rolling. Yeah. So that's how that kind of
that became kind of the Delaware Destroyer sound, was that electric slide, and of course that first album that came out, Rounder.
There is no Delaware Destroyer sound. There's no. Our sound is a melting pot of just like everybody else. When you listen to Johnny Winter, you can hear Chuck Berry, and you can hear Jimmy Reed, and you can hear Robert Johnson. I'm no different. Okay, so I just was doing what Elvin Bishop did, all the great guitarists before me, learning from these masters, and putting it together piece by piece, and out came George. It's more of an American sound than it is a Delaware sound. Sure. That's where the music came from.
Sure. Yeah, I get that. Now, when Rounders found you, or did you find Rounder, or did Rounder Records find you?
No, I chased Rounder.
I was going to say, you remember the day where you finally nailed it? You finally got that deal? The feeling?
It's a pretty complicated question. I was never quite sure I was there till this record went gold, and that was the second one.
Yeah, right.
So I was kind of in limbo, saying, Well, these people like me or not? See, they're a bluegrass label. They don't do anything with rock and roll. They like blues, old timey stuff. But what I was doing was, closer to like a Johnny Winter or a John Hammond or Hound Dog Taylor. And they said, "Oh, that's all fine and good, but we record obscure people who go out and sing in the corn patches of Iowa and have no record deal, or street musicians from Atlanta. They do old-timey bluegrass type things." And I said, so they're more or less their albums were like documentary records.
Really much.
And that's what they were about. But they were the only ones who didn't say no.
I'll sign.
They said maybe.
Yeah.
So I said, maybe is better than no.
Well, it was that first record, and of course, as you said, the second one was the one that went gold. But it really was college radio that was picking up, because college radio was the ones that were getting the stuff from Rounder, stuff like that, to play on college radio. Some of the stuff. And that first album was very much college radio played, and then eventually it was the FM radio that started hearing this stuff of George Thorogood.
And that was difficult too, because Rounder had no distribution. They had a mailing list.
Yeah.
A mailing list.
Yep.
And a lot of people couldn't get the record, so they had to mail in to get the record to play on the radio. And I was going, this isn't going to make it. This is if people can't go down to the store and buy it, this is not going to help us at all.
Right.
We got to make some changes here.
Right. Well, George, if you want to hang tight, we're going to do a quick break here, and we're going to come back. Are you guys ready to play something for everybody?
No, but
you do it anyway since you're here. I mean, you got nothing else to do, right? Just kind of hang out.
We got plenty to do.
But not in here.
I think De Niro called earlier, and when Nicholson's always popping in. So hey,
Sure,
I'm a busy man.
Okay. Well,
by the way,
since you're in here right now,
I see.
Do you mind if you just play some stuff? I mean, we'll do a quick break.
If you say please.
Come back. Please,
pretty please,
sir, pretty please.
And Georgie's a really cool guy.
And you are a cool guy. Everybody knows that. All right.
I come in last night about 10:30, and that baby of mine wouldn't let me in. Move it on over, rock it on over, move over, cool dog, 'cause the hot dog's moving in. She told me not to mess around, but I done let the deal go down. Move it on over, rock it on over, move over, little dog, 'cause a mean old dog's moving in. She warned me once, she warned me twice, but I don't take nobody's advice. So move it on over, rock it on over, move over, little dog, 'cause a mean old dog's moving in. It's mighty small, it's better than no house at all. Move it on over, rock it on over, move over, little dog, 'cause a mean old dog moving in. On my back door, and now my key don't fit no more. Move it on over, rock it on over, move over, little dog, 'cause a mean old dog moving in. Move it on over, move it on over, move it on over. Why don't you rock it on over, move over, little dog, 'cause a hot dog's moving in.
Yes, sir. When you're listening to the blues, or if you're playing the blues, I can't help it, but I start giving that blues shake, and then my face contorts, and I can't help it. That's just one of those things.
It takes over.
It does. Yeah. I can't help it. Now, one of the other questions I was going to bring up too, because I've been following your career for a long time. Not many people would agree to, or want to, or have the stamina to do a 50-50 tour, which you did 81, correct? Does that sound right? 50 nights, 50 days, nonstop, right? You did that.
Yeah.
Was that a memorable experience for you? Was that something you're
Lou Gehrig played in 2,130 games in a row.
Got it. I got it.
You
I
got
understand. I completely understand.
Man, if you can't get up and go to work and play 50 days in a row and you're in a rock band, you got problems.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So it's nice people bring that up and it's all that and what have you. But we were doing that and we said, hey, man, we go on the road anyway.
Yeah.
We did with the 50 states, so we'll just do them all in a row. That way we can get it done. You don't have to- no nights off, get the thing wrong. But it's funny that people say that. I said, my parents went to work 50 days in a row.
Sure.
I mean, lots of people do.
Yeah.
But then this is the greatest job in the world you can have, next to yours, of course.
Next to mine. Well, it's
By
better
the
than
way.
working for a living, as we
By the
say.
way,
Yeah.
by the way. So I tend to put it in that perspective. Then it doesn't faze you as much. We get wake up tonight and play music people love.
Right.
They want to hear. So we have to drive a little bit. I'm just glad to run 250 states.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing we don't have that many states at this point, right? 27 releases. That includes your greatest hits and, of course, the compilations of best and that kind of stuff, too. For people whose maybe parents were not quite into either rock and roll or the blues, and they didn't grow up with George Thorogood. What album would you say would be the one that they should listen to say, this is who George Thorogood is? This is the first one you want to listen to because after that, you'll be hooked.
All of them.
Well, of course. Well, what's the first one that you kind of go, yeah, that's if you were to sit there and play the album that you want to hear of yours, which one is it?
I don't listen to them that much, so I have to go back into the archives.
Yeah.
And filter through it.
Sure. Mine, of course, again, I always go back to that first one because, again, that brings back memories of growing up listening to that record as Dad's playing it, and I love that because it sounded so raw. That was the early stuff. It almost sounded like a small club kind of thing. That first
it was
album.
small, all right.
But I mean, and that's where
Everything about it was small.
That's where everybody got their first taste of your version of one bourbon, one scotch, one beer, and I mean that's to me, and I love John Lee Hooker and all that kind of stuff. And
he was the
everybody else.
first person I heard do that song. I got an album by him. He was playing live at the Cafe Go-Go, and I had the album first. And then I went to see him play, and this was early when I just started fooling around with the guitar, and I knew I was going to do that, and I needed to go see him. So I went to see him play in New York City, and it was at the time in 1971 when the blues boom was happening big. And Muddy Waters, Howling Wolf, John Lee Hooker, blues was everywhere. But the people who went to see him were probably 95% of them were Caucasian white people who had never experienced the blues. They never knew about these artists just through records. And when they went to see him play, any of these people, and I'd seen some of them, Mississippi Fred McDowell, Muddy Waters, I was like them. I was going to see all these greats perform.
Yeah.
So I went to see John Lee Hooker. Now, when everybody went to see these cats, everybody sat there like it was a church. Like you could hear a pin drop. Bing. That's how revered, is that the word? For what these people were doing, except John Lee Hooker. When John Lee Hooker played, check this out, he was playing and he did this song, one bourbon, one scotch, and one beer. When he did that song, the dance floor was filled.
Oh.
Everybody was dancing, something you didn't do to the blues. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Yeah.
But when John Lee Hooker played, he played one bourbon, one scotch, and one beer, and the dance floor was filled, and they were all women.
Oh.
And I said, aha! There it is.
Yeah. And that's what I personally, I think that's my favorite version of the song, only because of the fact that you have that, the what was it, the beginning of it? The
House Rent.
Yeah.
We threw on in front of it.
When you put that together, I think that's just the ultimate version of that whole song because I think it fits the story at the beginning and then right into it. This is where I'm going to end up. I'm going to end up in the bar drinking because I'm stuck.
Well, there's a lot of, most people in the world have had house rent problems.
Yeah.
It's face it, we're all not Rockefeller.
Right.
I mean, people have issues. I said, well, just have something that you can. We had been doing in a band bourbon, scotch, and beer for a while without that intro. We were in a club where we were performing. We were on break, and people were lined up at the bar watching the World Series. So I was competing with the World Series. Leave it to me to play a night the World Series. It's the only time I could get a gig, and when the World Series is on, right? So I'm sitting there and everybody's watching, and so I go off to the bandstand and I just start fooling with my guitar and just started going, I want to tell you a story about the Houseman Blues. And I just started fooling with that. And then I started rapping and getting a little closer to the bourbon, scotch, and beer. It was a completely impromptu thing. And our bass player and drummer went up and they got on stage and I went, so I went down the street and I went to the bartender, one bourbon, once, and the drummer went, pow, and hit it, and everybody left the World Series and went on the dance floor. Oh. So I said, okay, now we got something.
Right.
Now we got something going here. So that was kind of it was an accident. It was an impromptu thing, like some things are like that, and that was one of those kind of things. But somehow it worked. So we've kept it in the act.
Thank you. Of course, one more round of applause for Jim Suler as well, who's been playing just amazing stuff. And, of course, George, tomorrow night, Gallagher Blue Dorn Performing Arts Center here in Cedar Falls, 7 o'clock?
Plenty of good seats still available.
You know what? And that's the thing. You get some seats, go enjoy this show. It's not one you want to miss, I got to say. You got to see George Thorogood live. And, by the way, you guys have any plans to go and see the show? Have you made any plans? Tell you what, why don't we send you to the show as well tomorrow night? You guys want to go? Yeah? We got a little surprise for you. We'll send you to the show as well. It's tomorrow night. Again, get your tickets if you haven't yet. Come on down to the show. See George Thorogood tomorrow night. Gallagher Blue Dorn Performing Arts Center in Cedar Falls, of course, 7 o'clock show. Still time to get those tickets and go now. Thank you guys so much. And George, it's been a great memory for me now. I'll always have this. So thank you so much for talking to me today as well.
Thank you, Sean.